Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse Today. Joining me is Mary Ellen Erickson from North Dakota and an author. First off, Mary Ellen, as we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I was born and raised in North Dakota, spent my whole life here as an educator, was an educator in the North Dakota school systems for almost 40 years, not all the time. I raised a family in there too, so it took a little time off here and there. But that's what I did, and then about 11 years ago I started thinking about writing, started writing and books of all kinds, and then about 5 years ago I started publishing, and been busy ever since, full-time job.
Okay. Well, now, real quick, where do you reside now?
We live north of Jamestown, east of Carrington, on my husband's family farm, and we're both retired, and my husband's involved in community service of all kinds, and I do the author thing, and we keep busy.
Well, as we sat here, it looks like you've been pretty busy writing, and you mentioned, well, let me back it up. When did you start? You mentioned 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago you started this. Now, but you were in education, so did you used to write before, or is this something, a passion you developed in the last 10 years?
Well, it's become more of a passion in the last 10 years, but I was a storyteller from the time I was a child. My younger sister still talks about the lovely stories I would tell her and my younger brother when we were young. And I always liked to tell stories. I was just a storyteller, but because of other obligations, I was a parent and a wife, and I, had a lot of obligations for 40 years teaching and so on. I just didn't have time to pursue anything in that area. And where I started getting an interest when I quit my teaching career, the first thing I did, I'd always wanted to get a PhD. And I didn't know whether I wanted it in education or human services, because my background is both education and human service with the teaching and the school counseling. And so I finally decided, well, I'm going to go back and finish that before I do anything else. And while I was getting this PhD, I had to do an awful lot of reading and writing. And I found out that I liked it. And of course, when you're writing for a PhD, it's a whole different type of writing than like children's books or fiction. But still, it is writing. It's disciplined. It's doing it all the time. It's, grammar and correctness and so on. And I found out that I really kind of like that form of work. And so that kind of started me with and that was the caregiving. I went back to school and got a PhD in human services with caregiving as my dissertation, my area study. And so that's where that book comes from that I wrote. And that started me. And
well, with that said, and you've got some different styles maybe, or I don't know what to call them right now, but let's start off with maybe the Grandma Mary and the Bonbon children's book series. Okay. Tell us about those.
Okay, they were sort of conceived while I was still working in the classrooms. As a school counselor, I went into all the different classrooms with lessons, teaching character, development, traits, values, and work ethics. And of course, every time I wanted to go into a classroom and read a book that probably said something about these things, I'd have to find a book. I'd have to write a lesson plan. I'd have to, if there's any vocabulary in there that was different, I'd have to, find the definitions in terms children could understand. I had to do lesson plans and procedures and questions. So I said, why doesn't somebody put this all in one book? And that's what I did. That's what this is. It's a series of cute little stories about Grandma Mary and her puppy Bonbon. And Bonbon plays the part of a child, and she doesn't always make good decisions. So Grandma has to help her as the adult educator. And in the first book, she sends her to school, and that's the start of it. And so each book has a different set of things I'm teaching, but they're all in the field of work ethics, values, and character building traits. That's what I'm trying to promote in those books.
And these are the messages you're sending to kids and parents.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Because the two educators who want to use them, counselors, they're welcome to use anything in the book. The activities I have in there, lesson plans, anything they want to use out of there, they can use in their classrooms, and parents can use them and so on too.
Well, now who's your illustrator here?
My illustrator's name is Julie Haberman, and she was a former student of mine when I taught school, and I knew she was a very talented young lady then, and I always liked her drawings. I thought she had such good concept of like like cartoon characterization and so on, and children's books are kind of characterization like that. And so when I started writing, I asked her if she would like to illustrate, and she said, I've always wanted to do children's books. And so she collaborates with me, and we do those. And what I find so amazing is so many people will ask me, well, how do you do that? I mean, do you sit there and decide what's on each page? No. I write the text, and I format the books. This is what I want on this page. I even split up the text, and then I'll say, here I want a picture of the puppy doing this. Here I want a picture of Grandma doing this. And she puts the pictures in. We don't even live close. I just send her the stuff, and she does that for me. And we are of such like minds that when I get the stuff back 99% of the time, it's just perfect what I wanted. So it's just worked out really nicely. She just kind of can read my mind and knows what I want where, and that's how we do it.
Well, can you read something perhaps from one of these? I think you said you might read the first couple of pages here to get us started in this.
Okay, the first day of school, sort of the setting for all the stories. It says, Grandma Mary was a little old lady with white hair and blue eyes. She wore glasses and had a very big smile. Grandma Mary was like any other grandmother. She was kind, gentle, and cared about people. There was one thing that made Grandma Mary different from most of other grandmothers. She was a teacher. Grandma Mary loved to teach. She had been a teacher for many years. She was now retired. Grandma Mary needed someone to teach in her home because she no longer worked at a school. Her children were all grown up and had left home. The only one left to teach was Bonbon. Bonbon was not a person. She was a puppy, a small white puppy with big black eyes and a black nose. Grandma Mary did not think of Bonbon as a puppy. Grandma Mary thought Bonbon was her grandchild. Since Grandma Mary had taught her own children to be good citizens, work hard, she was determined to teach Bonbon the same skills. One way to learn those important skills is from parents or grandparents. Another way is to go to school. And therefore, Bonbon is sent to school, and thus starts the adventures.
Okay, and how many of these do you have?
Well, I have 3 of them done. The second one, Snowstorm, is about attitude. In that one, the puppy, there's a big snowstorm, as we sometimes have in North Dakota, and the puppy can't get her way. She can't go to school, and she has to be confined, and she's all whiny and upset. And so that one's all about attitude and having a good attitude. And then the Bonbon Special Christmas is about Christmas, the holiday of Christmas and where it comes from. And I look at Christmas from a Christian perspective, teaching the puppy of where the holiday comes from through the Christian faith and how it developed, our traditions have developed through the years. And I do intend to continue this series. I want to write something about bullying because that's a big problem in our school. Maybe one about decision making. Those are the different things I like to focus on and do a story around those things.
Well, that's interesting, yeah, and you would be stay topical with things that are going on. Well, then let's change gears a little bit and talk about the Peanut Butter Club mystery books. Tell us about those.
Okay, this is a series I started only a couple years ago. And one of the reasons I started this series is I'd have adult books when I went out to do shows. I'd have adult books and I'd have books for young children. The Grandma Mary and Bonbon series are picture books for young children. And sometimes families would come and they'd have children, between the ages of 8 and 13 or so, and they'd sit there and there was nothing for them. The other family would look at things and probably buy something, but there was nothing for them. And I thought, hey, this is a market we need to tap more, stories for these type of kids. And then also when I did book signings at book shows and talking to school libraries, which I do a lot of marketing with, they would tell me too, there's kind of a gap in this age group of literature. And some of the literature that they do have for that age group, some parents don't approve of because there's a lot of stuff with, vampires and witchcraft and monsters and stuff, and some parents. So I thought, hey, how about writing just a wholesome book for kids full of fun and adventure? And so this is these books are a cross between Laura Ingalls Wilder and the Bobbsey twins. They're kind of a mixture of wholesome farm, rural adventure, and mystery.
Well, now, do you have 2 of those?
2 of them are done. The first one, What Happened to the Deer, takes place north of Aberdeen, South Dakota, on an old-fashioned farm, diversified farm. Grandma and Grandpa live there. And the children have to spend the summer with Grandma and Grandpa on this old-fashioned farm because their own parents are in South America on a mission. So they think this is going to be totally boring. These are modern kids with, you know, the games and the computers and things, and all of a sudden they're stuck on this old-fashioned farm. So they think this is going to be boring. Well, they find their summer is anything but boring when they get going and they solve a mystery and so on. So that takes place north of Aberdeen. And then the second one, the Who Jinks the C&G Ranch, Grandma and Grandpa and the children go to a ranch near Medora, North Dakota, where some relatives are having a tough time because their ranch seems to be jinxed and everything is going wrong. And of course they help solve the mystery and save the ranch and so on. So that they all go out there. So it's like young people, children, the children in the books are ages about 7 through 13, and then the grandparents, and even the relatives they go to visit are older. So I kind of leave that middle generation out. Okay. So we get a little different look at relationships with older people and younger people and no in between. Okay.
Well, and again, now we've got to change gears and go to the next one. You have Humble and Homemade, Survival in Tough Times. Well, what's that one about?
Okay, that one is my latest, and it just came out actually less than a few weeks ago. And I thought, you know, and I kind of see what's going. Well, first of all, you've got to understand my motto. My motto is building a better society, one book at a time. And you know, lately we've been hearing about the economy and things aren't doing so well, and families need to economize, and you read all these articles in books and magazines and newspapers on how to shop wisely and how to preserve food and how to cook wisely. And so here again I thought, let's put it in a book. Let's add some of my own experiences because I am a child of the 1930s. I was born during the Depression, and I was raised by a young family who had nothing. And so I've come through that, and I understand that mentality, I understand that attitude, and so that I thought, let's put it in a book. So it's short stories with attitude, cooking, and cooking tips and recipes that are very simple, use inexpensive ingredients, that type of thing, and then gardening tips and preservation of food that we raise. So it's kind of a combination of those three things. Put in, I hope, a form that's readable, flows nicely, and might be interesting.
Well, you said it's the newest one you wrote, and I assume it kind of works well with kind of what's going on with our economy right now. But did you start that one years ago, or did you start that one months ago? When did you know?
Well, actually, I've written short stories for a number of years. Okay. You know, when something, these are, most of the stories in there are some things that have happened in my life, and so I wrote them out in sort of short story form. And so the short stories were mostly written. I've got some poetry in there that I've written before. So that was pretty well done. And recipes, I used old family recipes from friends and family that I've accumulated through the years that I use all the time. Simple, easy, conservative food. And then the gardening tips, I became an avid gardener about 15 years ago when we moved back to the family farm. Before that, I didn't have much of an opportunity. And that's my passion now. In the summer, I garden all summer. The family does a farmer's market, and our kids help, and it's sort of a whole family thing. And so that's what we've gotten into. So it's all stuff I do and have done.
Well, what's the public reaction been to your books, and how have sales been?
I'm pleased. I do most of my marketing right in North Dakota. We have 2 daughters living in Florida, so in the wintertime I go down to Florida and I do some book selling there, get into some of the bookstores and stuff, and do some book signing, and have done some book selling in Florida. And I've been on the edges, like I've been down to South Dakota to Aberdeen and done marketing there, and East Grand Forks. I was there just a week ago or 2 at their library and did a reading and some book signing and stuff. And so I kind of do the fringes of our state and our state mostly. And that's mainly because at my age I don't want to do a lot of traveling. I don't like to do shows that are, you know, long week-long tours or whatever. I know some authors have to do. So I'm kind of sticking around home where I can go easily. My husband usually drives me, and so we go together.
When are you surprised at the success, or what expectations did you have when you started in this venture?
Well, I think I approached this like I've approached everything in my life. I don't think a failure. I think this is going to work out just fine. Once I make up my mind, it's full steam ahead. I don't look back. That's the type of person I am. I am a forward-looking person, even at my age. I'm still looking forward to new things, new adventures, and this has been fun. It's been a lot of fun doing the books, and I've learned so much. You know, working as a teacher for 40 years. I had a government job where I got a monthly salary. I never had to worry about marketing, scheduling, sales, wholesale, retail, you know, all those things when you run your own business. I never even thought about that. So this has been a whole new education. We've got some close friends that are were in retailing all their life, and they laugh whenever I talk about it. Yeah, it's different than working for the government, isn't it? Yeah, it is, I say. It's a whole different thing. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, good. Hey, now, of course, there's a couple more books we want to talk about. You also have a book called Common Sense Caregiving. Tell us about that one.
Okay. Like I said earlier, that was the one I did when I did my dissertation and got my PhD in Human Services. My dissertation was on elder care, looking at caregiving from the perspective of the caregiver, not the older person, but the caregiver, who does the caregiver. And it's I took information from that dissertation. I interviewed 15 couples from the Foster County area, and those interviews is what I based my research on and put it all together in a book. So this is a book about stories people told me. It's an educational book, and the premise of it is, how can you go through this process of taking care of an older relative or an older person and make it a positive experience? The people I interviewed were positive, and it's kind of funny. I didn't think this when I started the interviews, that if people agreed to be interviewed by me, they would be positive, because you have to phone them ahead of time and make arrangements to interview them and so on. And of course, some people didn't want to be interviewed. But all those that agreed were very positive. And so it worked out great, because I thought I might have to throw out some of the interviews, you know, because they'd be so negative, and I was focused more on the positive, but they weren't. They were all very positive, and I think that's because they agreed to do the interviews with me, and they wanted people to know about their experiences and how they did this and how good they felt about it. So it's a very motivational, positive book about caregiving.
Well, so you've had the chance to interview some people, and older population in North Dakota can be a big issue, and it can be a challenge, especially in rural communities where maybe the kids have moved away. Mm-hmm. So what did you find out when you were doing all this? That's
very, very true, everything you say. The people that stay in close proximity to the parents or the elders are the ones that end up taking care of them. Many, many people told us about brothers and sisters in California and all over the United States. And a lot of times these siblings that lived in other states were very helpful in reinforcing and so on, but they could not be there. And so the ones here ended up with the caregiving. And so there's a whole chapter on that, working with relatives and siblings and how you work this out so there's no bitterness or resentment, you know, because it's true. The ones that stay take care, and we are an older population. I think when I did my research in the rural communities, about 25% of the population was 65 or older, and it is getting more so all the time, especially in the rural communities, and overall too. So we've got a large elderly population in our state, and so this is a concern. It was a concern of mine when I did the research and the study. I thought it might be interesting, and it was a very interesting study to do.
Okay, and then in addition to everything that we've talked about, I understand you have 2 adult fiction books. Let's start off with, tell us about Otis.
Okay, Otis is a story about a girl growing up in the 1950s, coming of age. And it's historical fiction. It follows our state during these times, and not only our state's history as to, you know, what was going on in the state of North Dakota, but also what was going on in families and the values people had and so on. And young people that read that book see how different it was to be a young girl back then, with our values concerning things like dating and marriage and so on were so different than what they are now. So that's kind of what that book is about. And of course, it has to have something to kind of keep your interest. So there's a mystery running through it. It's about a family with a secret that nobody talks about. And back in the 50s, the saying was, you don't air the family laundry in public. So you never talked about anything. You could have a white elephant sitting in the middle of your living room. You just ignored it because you didn't say anything to anybody about it. And so that's kind of what the book is about, the family secrets and how they affect relationships and how they go on in some families for generations and nobody talks about it. And so that's kind of what that book is about. But it's a funny book in places. Anybody that was alive in the 1950s can go back there and really enjoy the history and what went on and growing up and being young and how different it was to be young in that time period as now the young people, what their challenges are compared to ours.
Okay. Well, and also you wrote kind of a Golden Girls book, my understanding, called Gizettes.
Right. I like to write about things I know about. And everything that I've explained to you so far is from my own background, things I know about it, where I grew up, you know, my education and so on. And right now I am a Gizette. I'm an older lady. I'm retired, semi-retired because I'm still writing. And I thought it would be kind of fun to do a book for these ladies. And also I noticed when I was marketing, you know who buys books? the older gals, they have more time to read and they're still the readers. And I thought, let's write a book for them that they would enjoy, you know, that would be about them and so on. And so that's what that is about. It's about, I take the characteristics I know of women my age that are retired and I put them into these 7 characters and all the problems I know that women my age might have, you know, with retirement and relationships. Put them into these 7 gals. So we have 7 different characters and they're all with different problems, different personalities. I throw them all together in Arizona in a retirement village. These are snowbirds. And I try to have them solve these problems. So it gets very funny at times. It's you know, it's about these women out there a lot of times people ask me, well, what is a Gizette? And I even had someone who did a review on the book. They said, why would you want to call yourself a Gizette? They thought it was a negative. I said, being a Gizette is not negative. It's a very positive thing. It's a woman who takes challenges, tries new things, is still looking at life and love and relationships and having fun after she's retired. It's somebody who's just, you know, out there. I think of often when I think about the Gizettes, I think of like the Red Hat ladies, you know, who are an organization for fun and getting out and flaunting themselves in their purple and red and just having a great time. And that's where I got the idea kind of from. Let's have some women here that are still alive, still ready to do things and participate and accept challenges. Well,
Mary Ellen, I understand you recently won an award for this book.
Yes, I won an IPPY award, and it was kind of funny because my publisher entered my book in this Independent Publishers contest. And they're called IPPY Awards. And so I didn't know anything about it because they had entered it. I didn't. And all of a sudden I got I was talking to one of my publishers, one of the people down there, and he was looking up some information on Gizettes I wanted to find out. And he said, oh, I see you won an IPPY Award. I said, what? Well, you won an IPPY Award. So I asked him what it was. Well, he explained it to me a little bit, and then he said it's an Independent Publishers Book Award. It's sponsored by the Jenkins Group, and they have different sponsors. And he told me they had 64 different categories that they put these books in, and my book was entered in the romance category, and that I had won an award. And he told me to look it up on the internet, so I did, and I got all kinds of information, and eventually they send me some medals and information and awards and so on that I had won. So I was very pleased because it's the only award I've won, and so it was kind of a neat thing.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left, but what advice would you have for young writers or even maybe older writers as they're getting started trying to put a book together?
Well, older writers, I definitely tell them do it. And do it now. Don't wait any longer. That, you know, procrastination, I have a lot of older people that come to me when I'm doing shows and they'll say, you know, I've always wanted to write a book, and I'll say, do it. Well, just do it. Just sit down and do it. And then you can get the help to edit it and to publish it, and you know, with Publish on Demand and so on, and self-publishing, you can get that help. But just do it. For younger writers, I would say, learn some of the skills. You know, get a job in writing, maybe for a newspaper, a magazine. Get your name out there. Write some short stories. Get yourself involved in the marketing and so on of books, and so you learn about that. That way you'll have some experience when you get started with that first book. I made a lot of mistakes.
Well, a lot of mistakes maybe, but real quick too, how about getting published? Was that difficult for you?
Well, it's difficult if you want to go the traditional way. If you want to find a traditional publisher that takes your book, pays you a royalty, and does everything for you, including the marketing. But if you want to go publish on demand, it isn't difficult. There must be at least 100 or 200 publish on demand companies out there, and you just go on the internet, put publish on demand publishers, and they'll all come up, and then you've got to read through their information. They're all different prices, different packages. You've got to read through it and find out what's right for you.
Sure. Well, finally, I guess if people want more information about you or any of your books, where can they go?
Well, I have a website. It's www.drmarysbooks, and that's all one word, no punctuation, small case letters, drmarysbooks.com.
And your books are available right now?
Right. Because I wholesale through Ingram and Baker and Taylor, which most of the big bookstores and the smaller bookstores use, you can always get my books in a bookstore just by going in there and asking for my name and the name of the book, and they will get them to you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, that's all we have this week on Prairie Pulse, and as always, thanks for watching.